This is just an excerpt from a full episode. If you enjoyed what you hear here, go check out other full episodes, either on YouTube or as part of the podcast feed. Enjoy! On to Neighbourhood Watch news now. We are living in what some call the golden age of television. You know what? It's about time for Australia to cash in on this cultural shift. How, you ask, will we, as a country, be taking advantage of this golden era of television? Increasing investment in local productions? How will we be getting in on the TV game? Seems we'll be exporting our local TV to our Pacific neighbours. How exciting we, like America, can turn ourselves into a cultural powerhouse, exporting our culture so we can make niche references to Australian history and refuse to learn anything about anywhere else for decades. And then we will struggle to understand why everyone turns on us, because turning on us isn't in our cultural oeuvre. Plus, we can update our pop cultural stereotypes, because at the moment, people just think of us as either Mad Max, Crocodile Dundee, or Steve Irwin. Though people do have trouble telling the difference between all three of them. The main difference being, as far as I can tell, that the only animal left in the world of Mad Max is man. So it's one of those really lazy Twilight Zone episodes, you know? But what have we, in our infinite wisdom, decided to export to our neighbouring island friends? On the list is Neighbours, MasterChef, and Border Security. Yeah, that's right, Border Security. Australia, really leaning into that island prison reputation that we had very early on, and attempting to recreate that simpler time so that we can win back Sky News viewers. But it does seem in poor taste to export a show about stopping people from getting into the country to a people who will one day be forced to attempt to immigrate into Australia after their island home sinks due to Australia's love affair with the coal and mining companies. Just a little. And we have already expressed our lack of desire to take in residents of Pacific Islands, with previous and current prime monsters Abbott and Morrison caught joking about the death of island folk a few years back.
It was a good meeting.
Super classy manoeuvre. And more recently, we were incredibly insulting about the state of peril in the islands. Effectively telling residents to shut up and take the money. And that basically, they will be safe if they are happy to turn themselves into an Oompa Loompian style workforce, picking out fruits, presumably creating chocolates, and punishing spoiled children with the cruelest weapon of them all, irony. This new Pacific Oz TV program will allow Australian content to be aired free of charge by broadcasters in 7 Pacific nations at a cost of $17.1 million, an amount of spending on Australian arts that is suspicious for a government that is intent on slowly unplugging the life support machine of any arts program. So what's the true motive behind the move? The move has been seen as an attempt to combat Chinese influence in the Pacific region, particularly since the Chinese have just started building their own islands in the Pacific region, making a mockery of Australia by actually utilising its coral reefs rather than just letting them be bleached to death, in an attempt to whiten them so sufficiently that they would not be kicked out of the country if, in the event that we are unable to stop future Liberal Party collaborations with increasingly unstable political allies, so as to not loosen their stranglehold on the country because they want to be the ones in charge when the life finally escapes from the country, only to then hand it over to the Labour Party and complain that the Labour Party was unable to raise the country from the dead using necromancy, though even if they did, they would certainly complain that the use of necromancy was unjustified, as only through the death of a country could it then enter into the kingdom of heaven. And that was actually the endgame all along. Surprise, suckers. There is a gap in the Pacific market, as last year China's state-owned broadcaster took over the frequencies left idle when ABC Radio Australia ceased shortwave transmission in the region in 2017, a service initially set up in the 1930s in order to counter Axis powers' propaganda in the region. So, the collaboration is frantically trying to plug holes that it left behind by viciously slashing the budget of the ABC because they sometimes do news that makes them sad. And all of the comedy shows talk about how bad they're doing at government. And they're trying really hard to not let people know that very poorly kept secret. So which means Neighbours is now being used as state propaganda. Meaning the somewhat dopey but affable toadfish Rebecca will now actually be a state agent, pushing Australian propaganda. Presumably he'll be doing ads for lamb, which will serve as secret ads for the coal industry, as the lamb will only ever be cooked on a burning pile of coal. He's also a pilot, so he will probably be taken in by the Air Force as a sleeper agent. And Dr. Carl will be repurposed into his own spin-off series, a MASH meets Mad Men mashup. A mix of light and dark comedy all about the injuries accrued by the mental gymnastics needed to justify the increasingly juxtaposed positions of claiming to be great economic managers and yet still increasing investment in coal-based industry. It's not all fun and games in the offices of the Ministry of Truth. And that's when bad neighbours become bad friends.